Hello and welcome to Community Conversations. I'm your host, KK Conashiro. Anyone who has put a budget together for their family or business knows what a complicated process it can be. In the ever-changing landscape of legislation and revenue streams, maintaining a budget for a large school district is especially challenging. Here to provide us with an update with all things financial at Fremont Unified is Associate Superintendent Raul Parongo. Did I say that right? And of course, our favorite co-host, Dr. Zamora. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, everyone hates talking about money, but it's a fact of life, and it keeps us on track, it keeps us focused, so it's a very important subject, even if you don't like talking about it. So, can we start with a summary of how the district is standing financially going into the next fiscal year? I mean, what's good news, what's bad news?
Sure. Well, before I do that, I'd like to thank you for giving me this opportunity. It's great to be back here and
welcome.
Provide our community with the most exciting topic of the school district, which is the budget.
Yeah.
Well, so when we're developing the budget, the first thing that we do is we make sure that we closely monitor them. And so before I go on into the current year, I'd like to discuss about what happened in the prior year. So last year we ended the year with approximately 1.9 million less than what we were anticipating. So we anticipated a reserve of about 8.8 million, and we were about 6.9 million by the time the year ended. So it's about 1.9 million less. But if you look at the 1.9 million, that sounds like a lot of money. But it is, in the overall scheme of things, it's about less than 0.5% of the district's budget.
Right.
So the 1.9 million were asked primarily due to the unanticipated cost related to utilities like electricity, gas, water. Our water bill went up. And also some of the costs related to the special services, special education program. And so, you know, when we look at that, those are the basis when we move into the current year. So when we go into 17-18, let me share with you some of the good news first.
Please.
The good news is that in 17-18, the district will be receiving approximately about $9 million in additional revenue. A lot of money.
And this is on top of what we normally get?
This is on top of what we normally get. It's about $9 million more. But then when you look at how that money will be used, the state also imposed additional expenditures in the district. So, for example, approximately 5.5 million of that shall be used towards the increase in pension contributions. So you receive 9 million, you spend 5.5 million, so you get about a few more million left.
Right.
But then in addition to that, the majority of that amount, about half of that amount, is due to increased enrollment. So when you have more students in the district, you receive more revenue. And so about 4.5 million of that 9 million came from additional enrollment.
Okay.
But when you have additional enrollment, you have to hire additional teachers.
Right.
You have to provide additional supplies. And so literally the amount that is available for expenditure is 4.5 million. So 4.5 million, you take away the 5.5 million in additional pension costs. Now all of a sudden you are short by about 1 million. So that's the bad news in terms of the budget. There are more bad news. There are other expenses that the district incurred. There's a natural increases in the cost of doing business. For example, we call them the step and column increase. Our teachers and all our staff move into the salary scale every year, and there are some costs associated with that. There is increased cost of materials. When we look at the budget, we determined back in the spring that we have a budget shortfall of about $17.7 million. So back in the spring, we asked the board to approve what might be the best solution to address that.
Right.
And the first solution is to reduce our expenditure. The board determined about 7.4 million in expenditure reductions and about over $10 million in other budget solution. Amongst the 7.4 million, the example of departments that were reduced, for example, is our maintenance department, lost about $600,000. Our class size, we're scheduled to reduce our class size for third grade to 24:1, we postponed that. We kept them at 28-1.
Okay.
Our technology was reduced by technology budget by about $500,000. So those are some of the few examples. What makes the 7.4 million, but there are a few other things. We lost some staff members as a result of that also.
So what do you think the impact will be on the janitorial side or the maintenance side? I mean, $600,000 for the whole district, right? Will the kids suffer from trash not being picked up? I mean, how does this affect the kids? Will they even notice it?
Well, the reduction of 600 is not. We did not reduce staffing.
Okay, good.
At
good.
the custodial staff or maintenance staff, but we reduced supplies, supply
it.
costs, and so we have to look at it very carefully in terms of what materials we're buying, and so there may be some impact in terms of supplies and some materials.
Now, because Fremont is very successful in its school district because of our great teachers and our great campuses and our great admins, don't you see our overgrowth continuing? And if so, like you said, I mean, the more students we have enrolled, the more money we get from the states. But on the backhand side, it causes more expenses. So how do we help the situation, if anything?
Well, we're actually solving the problem as we go. Naturally, any student that comes to our district, we have to provide them a seat. We have to accommodate every single student that comes to our district. And of course, the challenge is when they come, we have to think about facilities. How many classrooms do we need to build every year? And then we provide those information to the board and also to the public. As an example, this last summer, in preparation for this school year, we had to put some temporary classrooms at American High School, at Thornton Junior High School, and also at Horner Junior High School, for us to be able to accommodate growing enrollment. In addition to that, there are some schools that are just overcrowded. And so what we did was we overload some of the students from one school to the other where there are spaces.
I think the other thing that's really clear from our district administration as well as the board is we try to stay away from the classroom. So the commitment is to make sure that we are providing the ultimate experience for education for our students.
That's great.
And also our staff, both certificated and classified, are really committed to continuing the district's goal in educating all of our students. So that was one of our goals, to make sure that where else can we cut so that that's not the impact.
That's great. That's good to know.
I think the part that Raul mentioned is on the retirement piece that the state has now laid upon the school districts across the state. I think that's probably the hugest part that was a shock to us. And how are we going to deal with that?
Oh, you weren't forewarned?
No, we were aware of them. It's just that
when they come, it's still shocking.
Yes.
The amount of increase in expenditure is huge, like every year. And this is not the end. It's going to continue to increase all the way to year 2021.
Wow.
And once it hits the peak amount, the peak rate, it will actually stay there for the next 25 years.
Okay.
So we provided some analysis on that and calculated what does it mean for the district over time, over the period of about, let's say, 35 years.
Yeah.
It would mean approximately $28 million per year on the average of additional pension costs. This is money that we never had.
Right, right.
And I think the challenge to that is that you don't see it. You see a textbook, right? And you see the supplies, but you don't see retirement and the behind the scenes of what that actually takes away from the district.
Right.
So it's a really great challenge that we as a district and Raul has set for the next few years to how do we, develop that budget plan for our district.
Yeah. Now, I know there's a lot of building going on. Could you remind our viewers how those new buildings are being paid for? Because I know there's a misconception that people think, oh, it's from your budget, and it's not. But could you remind, because in September there was 2 new buildings and 2 more are going to be opening this winter. But could you remind our viewers how this is paid for, that they're not taking money from our kids? And
We're very grateful for our voters and for our citizens in Fremont because back in 2014, our citizens in Fremont approved a a bond, a Measure E bond, that provides the district $650 million for us to build facilities, including new classrooms. So in
Now,
the,
is Measure E, sorry to interrupt, but Measure E, that's different from Proposition 51?
it is different from
Okay.
Proposition 51. Measure E is a local bond.
Okay.
It is paid for by our taxpayers in Fremont.
Okay.
Proposition 51 is a state bond.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just this summer, we opened up 2 elementary schools, Patterson Elementary and
Right.
Brookville Elementary. That provided us 8 classrooms each
Nice.
and addressed some of the overcrowding of the American high school attendance area. In the next couple of months, we're going to be opening up another school, another building at American High School that has 18 classroom, a 2-story building.
And I have to say, the building looks very interesting from the street view. It's like I can hardly wait to see the finished product.
Then we have few more. We have few more schools. We are starting to do the middle school conversion. For example,
Okay.
Walters, a junior high school, will become a middle school starting in the fall of 2019. That will provide about 22 classrooms, a new
Okay.
classroom,
Okay.
2-story building. And then Horner is going to be, we're going to be breaking ground very, very soon at the Horner Junior High to convert them into a middle school.
Okay. Now, since we spoke a little bit about it, but Proposition 51 approved a $9 million bond for our school construction, if I can speak. Can you give us a status on how that's going and where it is right now?
Yeah, so I think you mentioned 9 million. I think it's 9 billion. I'm sorry.
Oh,
to-
right,
yeah,
you're right. Sorry.
Yeah, because I think it's really a huge amount of money at the state level. Just recently, the state released or sold about $400 million in state bond. And the money started flowing into the districts.
Okay.
Unfortunately, Fremont is not one of the beneficiaries of those $400 million. Some of the Bay Area districts actually got some of those money. We, however, at Fremont lined up and we submitted our application for some of our earlier projects.
Okay.
For example, the very first one in line is the building at Mission San Jose High School that was built in 2012. That is the very first project that is lined up for funding.
Okay.
We just heard from the Office of Public School Construction that they will start reviewing them, and based on our estimation, hopefully, like this time next year, we will start to see some of those dollars flowing into the district.
That's amazing. So help educate me here. When you get the Measure E money and the Proposition 51 money, they are allocated for specific reasons, okay, what the voters had voted into place. Does that mean you have separate accounts? Do you have to account for all of this, or does it, I mean, how do you do that? This is just out of my curiosity, because that's a lot of money, and how do you keep track? You know, this construction person, needed this money from Proposition 51, and this one was using Measure E. How do you do that?
Yeah, so those are, first of all, required by law that we monitor
Right.
them separately. So as the money comes to the district, we monitor them. We deposit them into a specific account, and we monitor every transaction that comes in and goes out of that account. Similarly, in the Proposition 51, it's the same thing. It's separated in a different account, and at any given time, we could run a report to show
Okay.
how much money we have left, how much money we've spent, how much we received.
Do you have different departments that do this, or is it all under your department?
Well,
how does that
it's
work?
actually a partnership between 2 departments.
Okay.
There is a facilities and construction who
Ah,
plan and spend the money,
okay.
and the budget office and the accounting department are the one who monitors to make sure that the money are spent properly.
Right. Wow. Okay. Developer fees continue to be a very hot topic in Fremont. Can you remind us here what they are and how they are calculated, and then how are they able to help the district?
So, developer fee was established in accordance with the Senate Bill 50 many years ago. The intention of this is to provide funding or to allow a school district to levy a fee when there are some developments that are going on in
Now,
your jurisdiction.
Is this residential development or commercial development or both?
It is both.
Both, okay.
Yeah, there is, however, exception for the individual. So any addition or reconstruction of, let's say, an individual home less than 500 square feet is exempted from paying the developer fee. So if you have 500 square feet or more, it is required that we charge them a developer fee.
Okay.
The way it works is we prepare a study every year, about spring of every year, to make the determination what the rate will be. It is based on a very sophisticated formula provided by the state. We follow that formula and we come up with a rate that we're allowed to charge. More recently, however, the state allowed, or the district, to charge a level 3 developer fee. And to make a distinction between level 3 and level 2,
Yes, please.
yeah, level 2 is a rate that was determined based on that study, and level 3 is twice as much as
Okay.
level 2. In a current situation, level 2 fee is $13.05, and level 3 is $26.11, which is twice as much.
Right, right.
I think it's important for our community to understand that as soon as Proposition 51 started to roll into the district, that becomes the trigger for the district to bring it down to the level 2 again. It's part of
Okay.
the legislation
Okay.
is to bring down the rate to level 2 once the Proposition 51 starts to roll in. And as I mentioned earlier, that we were not part of the first go-round.
Right.
Hopefully next time we will get it. That's this time next year. And at that point, then, depending on when we get them or not, we will make that change.
Yeah, you're always holding your breath, aren't you? Yeah. Okay, so we got a few seconds left, but I really want to cover this question. There's always a lot of uncertainty in Sacramento with, what we get here in the district, especially budgetary items. Do you predict any big changes depending upon the state budget?
Yes. There is local control funding formula, which is how our funding is being calculated. And our governor implemented it in 2013. But since the state didn't have enough money to be able to fully implement them, it was a gradual implementation year after year.
Okay.
The expected full implementation of the local control funding formula is year 2021. But
Wow.
we believe, based on some of the discussions we had with our professional organizations, that by next fiscal year, there may be some attempt to fully fund local control funding formula.
Wow.
That is the good news.
Yeah.
That is the good news. The challenge, however, that we are facing is the same thing that I mentioned earlier, that the pension cost is going to increase once again. Yeah, it is going to be increasing until year 2021. And if the amount of money we get is not enough to cover the pension cost, the increase in pension cost, then we would still have the same problem that we
Right.
experienced this year.
Right.
I think the part that happens in the media is they publicize, look how much school district is receiving in funds, but what they're not publicizing is the expense part of what
Exactly.
the state has now transferred over.
Yeah.
So it's always, gosh, you're getting so much more money this year, and it's going to increase next year and this year. But behind the story, they're not also sharing the other part two of the story on the expense side.
Which is not fair sometimes.
Yes, exactly.
But we have to end the show, but thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being here. This has been great. I hope you come back really soon. From everyone here at Community Conversations, we appreciate you watching, and we'll see you real soon. Thank you.